everyone. Welcome to the Birth and Body Podcast. This is Bethany Stricker, and I'm just thrilled that you are tuning in. I'm a licensed midwife in the DFW, Texas area and serve families through the midwifery model of care by offering preconception counseling, prenatal care, and home and birth center birth. This podcast is all about women's stories and voices and meant to be an encouragement and resource for all things women's health and wellness. If you're enjoying the podcast, we would so appreciate your support so that we can continue offering this resource to families everywhere. Please visit the Labira Pay link below this video on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube, or in the description wherever you are listening to this podcast. If you're a doula or childbirth educator and desire to further your education, or someday maybe you want to be a midwife, I would love for you to join my Steps to Midwifery group where we study cases and go into detail about all the things we talk about on the podcast, kind of a more clinical setting. You can visit my website at bethanystricker.com for more information on the Steps to Midwifery group. Our guest today is Cheryl of On Balance. She's a yoga teacher, hypnobirthing instructor, and Ayurvedic doula who is a gifted supporter of families through life transition. I'm so excited to interview her and share her story with you all. Okay, Cheryl, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here. I was introduced to you, I think, by Keisha.
Maybe
at her graduation party.
That's right. And I forgot about that. Yeah.
We had fun.
That was a good day. That was a nice party.
And she was like, Cheryl's the OG doula, so you need to know her. I was like, okay, noted. Noted. And then we talked, I think, some about hypnobirthing. Right. Which I love. Mm-hmm. I know you love too.
I do too. So I really feel like midwives love hypnobirthing.
It's just so, it's the best. I mean, not for everyone, of course.
No, it could be. It could be for everyone.
That's true.
I feel like there's something in the program that is good for everybody. You can find
I love that.
Your technique, your place in this program. It's not a one size fits all. Everybody doesn't have the exact same experience. Mm-hmm. But there's something in it that it could work for everyone. Yeah. If that person wanted it.
Sure. So,
but we're lucky. We have lots of different opportunities for education here.
It's so great. I love this area. Mm-hmm. So I'm thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Nice.
So I feel like there's so many things we could talk about because you have so much experience and I just love your story and everything. So for those that don't know you, would you mind sharing a little bit maybe how you kind of arrived to where you are, doing all the things, the healing things I feel like that you do. You don't just support, but I feel like you help people heal.
So yoga is the foundation. I went to art school and I found the movement of yoga practice. So when you get on your mat and you do the down dogs and all that, that's when I started doing that part. I had always been sort of a mindful 20-something, which might seem a little crazy, but I was always into meditation and just mindfulness. And when I got to art school, I think I just needed the movement part. And so a friend introduced me to the movement part. So I always say that yoga is my foundation as a practitioner for myself. And then I'm lucky enough now that I have a registered school and now I train people to be yoga teachers.
That's awesome.
So that's a part of it, a wheel. And then from the yoga, sort of teaching yoga and meeting people in the yoga world, I met a woman in art school and she came to Dallas and she had babies and I was there. So that was my introduction into the birth world. Mm-hmm. And my favorite thing to say is I met her doulas. And I was like, oh, aren't they cute? Those doulas are so cute. Look, they're doulas, you guys.
That's funny. So not like this huge pivotal, oh my gosh, I need to be a doula.
No, it was not like, I want to do what you're doing. It was more like, oh, aren't you cute? I'm an artist. You're a doula, right? And, but I admired, I was really, I was struck by their presence in the room and how calm it made my friend.
Yeah.
Because, husband, best friend, doula. And I thought, man, everybody should have a husband, a best friend, and a doula, or a partner, a best friend, and a doula, whatever it happens to be, that would be fantastic. So I thought that was really great. And then jump ahead a few years, and one of my yoga students becomes pregnant, and she says, I really want you to meet my childbirth educator. And it was that doula. And she looked at me and she said, you're already a doula.
Yeah.
You've got it. I thought, well, okay. All right. Well, we'll see. Not going to commit right now. And here I am.
Yeah.
Committed. I'm all in. But from doula, as far as that organic kind of unfolding of everything and I do, it just felt like it was supposed to happen. So as a doula, you continue your education. Sure. You want to stay current. So I had a doula client that wanted to read the hypnobirthing book.
Okay.
And after her delivery, she delivered at a birth center. After her delivery, I was like, man, this is by far to date the most spiritually profound delivery I've ever been to. And now I'm going to give her all the credit. It was her. Yeah. We were just there to support. But man, that was great. Everybody needs to do hypnobirthing. Mm-hmm. And there was a training maybe the next month or 2 months after in Austin. So I just went down and got trained. I was like, this is what I'm going to do. Yeah. And I added it into the puzzle. And I don't know. I haven't looked back since. I love it. Yeah. I feel like today we have, and I was the only hypnobirthing practitioner in Dallas for a long time. Yeah. But now it's so exciting because we have a handful, if not 2 handfuls, just within the Metroplex that actually offer these classes. So I think it's great. Yeah. And so that's how I found hypnobirthing. Yeah. Hypnobirthing to me is yoga. It's yoga birth. It's not yoga for everyone who teaches, but because that is my foundation, that's how I teach it. Yeah. So it's a good, for those people who come to my yoga classes or attend yoga classes, it's an easy, sure. Easy's not the right word, but you know what I mean. It's a good educational course to kind of support their labor and to continue their practice.
Yeah. So how, for some people who may have not heard of it, how would you say it's like different from Bradley, or maybe not different, just the philosophy?
So yeah, the philosophy is probably very similar to Bradley in that birth is a natural and normal and healthy event for someone, and it's not about the midwives and it's not about the doulas or the educators. Right. It's about that family. So, and then it's just within the training itself, beyond the basics, because I think all educational courses offer those really good foundational basics: anatomy, physiology, breathing techniques, comfort measures. Yeah. They all offer that. But I feel like that big extra step that hypnobirthing offers is some good techniques to help you kind of find your confidence. Yeah. Even if it's your first baby, just to be able to trust your instincts. So I feel like that's a part of it. That's one of the big ones. But it's very affirming. It's very much about let's not just totally disrespect the unknown if you've never had a baby before, but let's just try to find and believe that on a cellular level, we can do this. Sure. It's inside of us. So I think that's a part of it. But the techniques are beyond the breathing techniques and the comfort measures. It's about affirming and self-hypnosis. Self-hypnosis is truly mindfulness. It's truly very much about understanding that that the mind has the ability to dictate sort of what the body feels, experiences. The mind is the control center. So even though your stomach is growling, you don't know you're hungry until your head tells you you're hungry. Right. So hypnobirthing kind of follows along with that sort of step. It kind of pushes it into, this is how we're going to understand labor.
Right.
That way. So.
Yeah, sort of retraining your mind to see it as positive. Yeah. It's so when I started out as a doula too. And hypnobirthing was completely different and offered just so many more tools. Even so it was really profound for me too. And I often told people, even just read the book. Like, maybe you're already taking Bradley, just read the book too. And especially during COVID, not everyone's been able to take classes and things like that. I'm like, at least read these chapters and think, what if birth was really like that? Are you open to that? Even thinking of so-called contractions, what if you thought about it like this? And just start encouraging people to kind of be open to other things than what media says or whatever.
Some people come through, they're like, oh, do I have to listen to that rainbow relaxation? and so my response is, everybody's going to find their own rainbow relaxation. And I share a lot of personal experiences as a doula with clients, but one of my favorite ones is, I had a doula client. She was a home birth mom, and she had her little boy the year that Adele came out with her first album. Now, I didn't know that about Adele. And I tell you what, I know every word to every song, the order of the songs, how much time between the songs. I know it all because that was her rainbow relaxation. She listened to it over and over again. And hypnobirthing does touch on in that the laws of harmonious attraction, the laws of repetition.
Sure.
I mean, that's what hypnobirthing is. It's about following along with all those sort of laws in which we create connections. So
right, which could be so different for everything you said, 100%. I think I have rainbow relaxation memorized too, and it will put me to sleep. It's lovely and hard at the same time.
It is.
I'm like, gotta have my midwife brain on, but I'm just so relaxed with this too. But for some people, I often tell them, like, it doesn't have to be that. It could be scripture. It could be a poem. Absolutely. It could be like you're having your partner read something and you record it, and then you're doing your stuff while you're listening to that. It can be whatever you want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just has to repeat. Self-hypnosis or hypnosis of any kind is really about repetition. We're repeating the same thing and giving permission, and it's all positive.
Would you say it's also muscle memory?
Sure. Like, because remember, the mind, if we're feeding the mind is telling the body what it needs to do. So, hey, now it's time to relax. The body's like, okay, I can relax. Hey, let's focus on all these areas progressively of relaxing the body. So I think that's a big part of it. So, but honestly, it doesn't stop there. And I feel like a lot of educational courses, and I give the Institute some real big high fives. They have really tackled just understanding that first hour after you deliver, and then taking it into that first day after you deliver, a few days, and then here's what might happen in a week. And so it doesn't just leave you high and dry. You've had your baby, good luck.
Right.
It kind of offers you a little bit of something beyond. And then if you wanted to inquire and move beyond with some more focus, then you could actually do that. So
that's true. It's not just for labor. It's mindful parenting too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love
and there
that.
are some programs, people wwho are affiliated with the Institute who've gone on and created like hypno-mothering. I don't really know anything about that. But it comes up every now and then. So I feel like there's been so much good from practitioners out of it. And so Marie Mongan kind of set the way for that.
Yeah.
So
okay. Yeah. So dueling, hypnobirthing, and yoga, how would you say, I often, our last episode that I did, we talked a lot about movement and like listening to our bodies and asking what they need. And often as a midwife, I find they want me to tell them do this many number of times, and then you'll reach your birth goal, whatever that is. And it doesn't really work that way, at least not in my experience. Like, everyone comes to the mat, or however you want to say it, in a different spot. So then reaching their, birth goals is different. So how do you feel like yoga helps? Or it was always part of your practice, but how do you feel like it impacts your doula clients?
So for me, in my kind of practice, I don't practice with you.
Okay.
So they really have to learn to listen to the words instead of listening with their eyes.
Right, and just copying. Okay.
And so I feel like for the classes that I teach, that can be very beneficial. So you're listening to something, and you're not just watching and copying.
Yeah.
I don't know, it could be more impactful. But more than anything, for me, I blend those pregnant people in with those postpartum people, because I want the pregnant people to know that there is life after birth.
Yeah.
And I want those postpartum parents to say, you got this. So all of my classes are really focused around also creating community. I really want people to be a community.
Yeah.
We live in a very transient metroplex now.
Yeah.
And 2020 has offered quite the challenge for all of us. So Zoom invites everyone from their living room to come into a yoga class. So at the end of it all, Sarah might hold up her baby and say, hey, we had a great class. Thanks, Cheryl. What are y'all doing?
Yeah.
And then another Sarah might have her dog practicing with her.
Yeah.
But at the end of class, we all stop and we talk to each other just like we would if we were in the studio together.
Yeah.
So there's still that sense of support, create community. But I think that movement with breath is what a yoga class offers too.
For sure.
So match this movement with this breath. So remember, the hardest breath for you to take when you're in labor is an inhale. So you always think about an inhale. Every breath you take for yourself is a breath you take for your baby. So there's an affirmation behind everything. It kind of leads them right into taking that. Yeah. Women will say, I've never done so many squats. Thank you for making me do squats in a yoga class.
That's awesome.
I don't know if I answered your question.
You did.
I kind of got off on a little.
Yeah, I mean, I love that, because I think it's so many, like, it's not just a formula. Eat this diet and do these stretches, and then, take this class, and then you'll get your whatever their birth goal is. I think that's what they want to hear. But it's so much about feeling supported and being okay in your mind and your body, and then translating that into the birth. So, sounds like a plan. Sounds like people are making a plan. And if you remember in hypnobirthing, there are no plans. Right.
There are only preferences.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
I hear it all the time. I had a woman who delivered, I think 3 weeks ago now. I feel like it's 3 weeks ago. And when she wrote, everyone who takes the class together, I keep them on an email. So when each one of them delivers, they send sort of a group email saying, I had my baby. She's here. He's here. And so she wrote she sort of was the first one to deliver from her group. Yeah. And she said, she's like, hey, everybody, I just want you to know that, boy, did I veer from my preferred path. But I felt like it was perfect. Every shift, every adjust that I made was really perfect for me. And when she was going through her labor, she's like, Cheryl, I don't feel like I'm one of those ladies in the video. And I said, yeah, you are. Yeah. You are your version of that video. And then she had a photographer there taking pictures of her. And when she saw a picture of herself, she was like, I look like one of those ladies in the video. And I said, yes. Aww. I said that you were your version. In the moment, we just feel all consumed. Like, am I doing it right? And as you and I both know, they're all doing it right. They're just doing it their way.
Yeah.
So
totally. Mm-hmm. I love that. Birth photography is so powerful.
I wish it was an option for everyone.
Yeah.
I really do. There's only so much those of us who are in the room can snap a picture every now and then if we see a nice moment, but nothing like that fly on the wall with a fancy camera.
Right. Where that's their sole job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So often we're focused on rubbing their back.
Other things. Yeah.
Keeping everyone safe. And,
exactly. Yeah. I'm squeezing hips and you're making sure everybody's safe.
Right. Setting up all the
things. It's a powerful team.
It's the best. I wish everyone had a doula too.
I do too. I really do too.
Yeah.
And we have lots of doulas in this town now. I know. I might be one of those early doulas, but man, do we have a lot of doulas these days.
Mm-hmm. It's awesome. Mm-hmm. It's so great. And there's someone for everybody. And
absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So how did Ayurveda come in?
So I have, in my own right, for my own personal practice, participated in some of those. It's called panchakarma, when you do a cleanse. And so there's different times of year that you might do a cleanse, and different types of panchakarma that you might do based on your constitution and what you're trying to kind of overcome, let's say, for example. So I had already practiced some of those. I mean, even in, early on in my 20s, that went along with my meditation and my breath work. And so when I started doing more of this birth work, I wanted to kind of put some Ayurveda into it. So what can I do? So I met up with a woman here who does body work, and I started receiving treatments from her, and we started talking about how she could serve my yoga students and my doula clients with this an oil treatment. It's called an abhyanga.
Okay.
So I wanted her to kind of do that. And she did a few of them. She was like, I'm done. You're a doula. Let's just teach you how to do this. I'm like, well, I am a doula, so I could do this for my doula clients. That doesn't seem too off. So that's how the one tiny piece of the Ayurvedic practice came in. Okay. And then I would say a couple of years later, I went to India and I studied at a women's clinic in Trivandrum in Kerala.
So cool.
It was an experience like no other. Yeah. And I think it really did sort of seal the deal for me.
Okay.
And it was at that clinic that I stayed in India. The program wasn't really very long, but I was there probably a month. I was the only student because it was at a weird time.
Okay.
And as a doula, you have to make plans in advance.
100%.
Yes. So when they called to say, hey, you're the only student, is that a bad thing? I'm like, yeah, no. That's actually bonus.
Yeah.
So I ended up being the only student at the time, and I came back just full of this fire to create and do things. And so that was just the tip of the iceberg. No, since then I've continued my studies, and I do have someone that I work with as a mentor, and she helps me in the medicine part. Okay. I call it medicine. So within Ayurveda, there's the self-care. So the abhyangas, which is just application of oil, Shirodhara, which would be the oil to the forehead. Mm-hmm. And then the list goes on of some really amazing treatments. But for me, I use specifically the oiling of the body and then some nutritional paths. So I try to describe it as if it's something that we can adjust in your diet, adding just some plant help to make a shift, then that's the way we can go. Before you go to the medicine cabinet, let's see if I can offer you aloe vera for your indigestion.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see if I can offer you just something a little bit different where you don't feel like you have to take a medication that in many ways is just drying. So in Ayurveda, there are there are paths in which you invite the medicine into the body. And so those paths, which make it just a little bit different than maybe a herbal, like a Western herbal application. So it would be creating a decoction, like a strong tea, infusing that strong tea into a ghee,
I see,
or into an oil for just a body application, and then or honey, depending on your constitution. So tea, ghee, honey, and
sounds
oil.
great.
So, for example, I had a mask on yesterday.
Yeah.
All day long. Like I have just a lot of respect for people who wear a mask all 100%. Day long.
Yeah.
And I gave 2 back-to-back treatments, and I felt dry. When I got home, I was completely spent, empty. And I sat there for a moment in my chair, and I just felt my skin just get really tight. And I was like, what is wrong with me? Right? I go upstairs and I wash my face and I put oil all over me. And then I go to bed and I wake up the next day and I'm having a FaceTime with Jessie. And I was like, this face should not be on camera right now. She's like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, I am just dry. I said, hold on. And I went upstairs and I slathered my face with ghee. And the ghee I had infused with shatavari and rose geranium. So I just slathered my face in ghee, and it sort of took everything away. It felt so much better.
Yeah.
Well, I had a mask on all day. I didn't even think about that.
Sure.
So the treatments, the mask, it just sucked everything out of me. The shift and change of weather. So that would be one application. Okay. I wouldn't put shatavari ghee on everybody's face, but I'd put it on mine.
It's an adaptogen, right?
So shatavari would be in sort of a herbal kind of world, similar to red raspberry leaf.
Interesting.
So uterine health, sort of that to create a uterine tonic.
Okay.
So if so in an oil that I prepared for my fertility client, I put some shatavari in there so I could massage her uterus, kind of let this shatavari get through the tissue layers, so that her uterus would be ready. So in pregnancy, I might use shatavari as well, so that the uterus will stay healthy and, be stretch and do all the things it's supposed to grow a human. And then in postpartum, I would wait about 10 days or so to introduce shatavari again, because it is also very drying.
Okay.
So
that's so interesting.
And then for someone like me in menopause, it aids in helping me shift with all the hormonal fluctuations. Okay. So
it's so interesting. Like every area has the uterine tonic, the different things we need. And I just didn't realize that was one of them. That's so interesting.
So ashwagandha is an adaptogen. And I know that midwives use ashwagandha a lot now, which is great. I used to not be cool. Now I'm cool.
Right. Right.
And then, but there are some others that kind of fall in that category as well. And I would love for more people to know about Shankapushpi. Shankapushpi is also an adaptogen and really great to help women on a deeper level sort of maintain a calm sort of nervous system, a calm mind.
What am I trying to say? Someone with a different constitution than
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Deeper level.
Okay.
Like we would adapt, ashwagandha is sort of its main, when we use it, it's like, oh, I'm feeling a little lethargic today. My ashwagandha will give me a little boost. Oh, I'm feeling a little anxious. I can't seem to settle down and go to sleep. My ashwagandha will help me to sort of balance. And Shankapushpi is just a little bit deeper in that if you're a mom, that this is not your first postpartum, but maybe you're looking at your second or your third, and you know that you do have a dip.
Right.
Then I might introduce some Shankapushpi, a little different. It would be, I might do a milk infusion, or so it becomes a nice milk tonic, or I might make it in an oil, infuse it in an oil, so we can go straight to the source. So.
Sounds so amazing. Oh, I'm just so glad that we got to do that one birth together, so I could kind of put some things in context.
I know. It's hard for me to explain. It's hard for me to sort of say, this is what I'm going to do for you. And they're like, do I need that?
Yes.
So
yes, you do.
I'm like, I think, yeah. I wish I could have this.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, oh, midwives need all these things after births too.
If only we could start our 42-day sacred window when one of our clients delivers.
I know.
But anyway.
There's a lot to say about our bodies just needing more rest than we give them, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
what is, I obviously am more familiar with Western botanical medicine. So, but some of it, especially, I think the eclectics are more based on constitution and a lot sort of idolizing evidence-based medicine. I think a lot of people have forgotten that, and they want studies on everything to decide, and which there's not anything wrong with that, but we've forgotten more of the constitutional stuff. So I love what you are sharing about that, and it's not just because people often want to say, okay, how much ashwagandha, how much should I take, and how long is it going to take, and I want this exact result. So it's just so different for everybody. So,
well, and I typically say to people, I'm not going to, I'm not your care provider, and I'm not a doctor, and I'm truly, if I'm real honest, I'm not an Ayurvedic practitioner.
Sure.
I'm just a girl that went to India who reads a lot.
And you want to share it.
And I want to share this great stuff.
Yeah.
And I do consider myself an Ayurvedic doula, so I have more training than maybe most. But I'm not going to ever offer anyone that's too much. It's kind of like saying, oh, I think I ate too much broccoli.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
Yes, I feel like there's a little more in those that sort of lean into the aromatherapy. That one little bottle of essential oil is a field of lavender. Be mindful how much you take. Well, I'm actually going to go out and pick the lavender for you. I'm going to make a pesto out of it. You're not going to eat near as much as a drop of the lavender that's in here. So I feel like I'm never offering someone more. But if there is an adverse effect, then it's like, man, I felt a little jumpy, or I couldn't fall asleep right away, Cheryl, or, I just couldn't, no energy, and I feel a little dry. I'm constipated, or, or just the opposite. I have a little headache. So you start to get an idea of what those symptoms, where they fall. So there are 3 gunas in Ayurveda. There is tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic. So tamas is the heavier guna. And so there are certain foods that fall in this heavier guna. Oily, kind of like frozen dinners. That is a tamasic offering. Heavy meats are a tamasic offering. Leftovers. We are a leftover society.
Right.
I do it myself. I make a pot of soup and I eat on it for a couple of days. That's what we do. In an Ayurvedic world, that's old food. It's good for my first, but then it becomes tamasic. Gotcha. So I think there are certain levels. And then there's rajasic, which is very active food, like might overstimulate you, like chocolate.
Sure.
Coffee. So delicious. But with too much of that, also like raw foods. Raw foods are rajasic foods because in Ayurveda you cook everything because it's easier to digest.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the opposite or the very last one is sattva. And so those foods are harmoniously balanced. They're neither tamasic or rajasic. They create harmony in the body. And that's going to be a little bit different for everybody.
That's understandable. Okay. How interesting.
So
I feel like Ayurveda has become more popular. We talked about kind of before the show from the 40 Days book.
yes.
So I'm assuming from someone who has not read it, but kind of it's a little familiar, it's a lot of that concept, certain foods, healing for postpartum.
Exactly. And following that 40 days. So the book 40 Days was written by, it's more of an Eastern philosophy, an Asian Eastern philosophy. And in Ayurveda, we would say 42 days is the sacred window. So for every woman, after every child, they have a 42-day sacred window. So just honoring within that time, nourishing diet, caring for the body. So those oil treatments, opportunity to sit in a tub and really relax, an offering to just have some mindfulness so that you turn everything off and you just sort of turn your gaze inward. So, and then that turns into movement when you're ready. And then beyond that, there is rest. Rest. Gosh, could we rest for 6 weeks?
I know.
I mean, could we really do that? It'd be great if we could. And rest, I always tell women, don't expect to get your 1 hour or your 4 hours or your 6 hours. Just take your rest when you can get it. And if you can just dedicate yourself to 6 weeks of being in pajamas,
Right.
you're going to be more prone to get that little bit of rest from time to time. And you won't feel as exhausted.
Yeah.
We all don't have the ability to do that. Maybe our lifestyle doesn't offer that, but as much of that as we can get. So, and then quite frankly, I mean, can we take 12, please?
I know.
And then we both know it takes the body 10 months to grow a human. Why do we think we need to be ready in 6 weeks after the human is out of us? Why should we think our body needs to be right back to where it started? It's a new body.
Yeah. And just how much our mind changes, and it's a lot to integrate.
So
Yeah. So much change.
You know, that young girl who has her first period, she has a 42-day sacred window when she's finished.
Oh, how interesting.
That older gal who has her last period, she has a 42-day window.
Neat.
So all of these big moments for us become those windows because it's a shifting. Our body is changing. And so it's just honoring that change. So
yeah. What other things are part of Ayurvedic postpartum? Well, and I guess prenatal care, all the things.
So I currently have a woman who is working on getting her body ready so that she can have another baby.
Okay.
So for that part, I blend mindfulness with some Ayurvedic tools. And the Ayurvedic tools I use for her are sort of stimulating her appetite, eating more sattvic foods. And then we do body treatments.
Okay.
Just a basic Abhyanga with an added focus on the abdomen.
And that like is a massage for those that don't. Okay.
Yeah, it is a
type.
It's a body treatment. It's not really a massage. I don't want anyone to feel disappointed when they come in and I'm just rubbing oil on them.
Sure.
Feels great, but it's a little different.
Yeah.
And then also with her, we're doing a little mindfulness practice and some movement. So stimulating the Svadhisthana, that center chakra of the reproductive. So that's how I would use some Ayurvedic meets mindfulness in fertility. In your pregnancy, we wait. I like to wait till you're 20 weeks, 25 weeks. So you get really settled into that second trimester and you feel good. Then we can start doing a little application of oil. Now, within all of that, we can talk about how the garden can help you overcome that nauseous feeling that you might have. We can maybe talk about, if you have heartburn, how we can work on your heartburn with just some garden tools. But in pregnancy, we kind of hold. We hold until 37 weeks. And then on 37 weeks, we start to do things that would oil yourself internally and externally to prepare the body to have a smooth delivery. So that would be just from 37 weeks.
Okay.
And the postpartum starts, as you saw, right after 1.5 to 2 hours after you have your baby.
Okay.
So, and that's that medicated ghee, a bath, oil, wrapping of the hips, tea, and oftentimes some sort of something to eat. So the first day of nutrition is very different than the second to third week of nutrition, and we just build on it. So we start so simple, and then we build on it as your digestion, your fire, your Agni becomes more inviting to having more complex foods.
That makes sense.
So, but it starts easy.
Is it more like soups? And I don't want to assume. Okay.
No, they are. So everything is warm.
Okay.
So it's cooked and everything is warm, easy to digest, just like we would tell women in labor.
Right.
If you feel like you want to eat something in labor, make sure you eat foods that are easy to digest.
Right.
So in postpartum, if they're warm and oily and soupy, like a root vegetable.
Okay.
Grounding.
Sure.
That's the word I was trying to come up with. Something that's very grounding. A lot of women love to have like a bone broth. So if you're someone who eats a diet that includes bone broth, that can be so grounding, and it's warm and easy because it's a singular something to eat. And that marrow is one of the deepest tissues that affects the nervous system. So it's calming to the nervous system.
For sure.
So that.
Do you have many? So I'm just thinking. So I have a lot of vegan and vegetarian clients. How does that, is that part of the culture? How does that?
Yes.
How do you work with that?
In northern, if we were to look at India, it's so huge, right? Lots of different, but I guess if we were to divide it, maybe northern India, more meat eaters, and then southern India, more vegetarian. But across the board, if someone is a vegetarian, an amazing veg stock, I mean, is the best.
Sure.
Honestly. Beyond that, even those really wonderful root vegetables that can make a real soupy soup to eat, and then of course adding that to rice. But the rice has to be in the beginning. The rice has to really be cooked a long time.
Okay.
So it's almost mush. So and oftentimes the word has come up more and more now, congee. So you might have a sweet or a savory, but early congee is very watery.
Okay.
And very loose, very cooked.
Okay.
So that it's super easy to digest. So.
Okay.
But I typically like broth. I like broth to start. You have your baby, you eat broth. You just drink it. So.
It's so great for milk supply too.
It really is. I mean, it just adds to that hydrating aspect of like the more you put into your body, your ability to make builds becomes better. So,
are there any treatments for the baby in Ayurveda? I had never thought of that.
So when I'm working with someone postpartum, the most popular postpartum to do is just for me to come over and do the treatments. Most women feel like, oh, I got this food down, right? I can do the food. Why? I don't need for you to do the food for me. Okay, fine. So that doesn't keep me from suggesting things, planting seeds every time I come over. So when I come over to do a treatment for someone, if I'm setting up, so for the client that you saw me do a little bit of that practice, I created an oil for her. I called it the Carly oil.
Okay.
You might have seen that. So,
yeah.
So for the Carly client, I took a massage table over to her house. Okay. I had my whole room set up with all my oils, everything that I needed, something to heat up the oil with, and it was all set up and ready. Sheets were on, ready to go.
Yeah.
So each time I come in, I'd bring a snack. You've been home by yourself for 4 days. We're getting started on our treatments. This is an appropriate food for you to eat 4 days postpartum. Now let's do a treatment.
Sure.
How are you doing? Looks like your milk has come in. Things are going okay. So we talk about those things.
Sure.
And then if the baby is open to it, each time I come, I put oil on the baby.
Nice. Okay.
So
that makes sense. There's still one unit.
Mm-hmm. And if at that point for this woman, we did not give her baby a treatment at delivery, but if it were to work out and the baby was ready, then we would also treat the baby as well.
Okay.
Then and there.
Okay.
So, but a lot was going on that night. So,
yes.
Or that morning.
Yes.
Morning. So a lot was going on, and
sure.
It didn't work out. So, to do that, but to apply sesame oil to the baby.
Oh, interesting.
To kind of really help not wipe off that beautiful cheesy vernix, but to rub that vernix into the body and just a little bit of sesame oil.
Okay. So that makes sense. For those that don't know, why would they want to
use sesame oil?
Or not wash the vernix off?
Oh, so
I get that question.
I know, I get it too. So that vernix is just one of those layers of protection for baby. It's like the best lotion.
Yeah.
It's the best lotion. So one of my funny stories, my introduction, into this birth world, when my friend was having her babies and I was there. She's very funny. I mean, she was hilarious. When she had her first, I was sitting behind her. We were at Presbyterian Dallas, and I was sitting behind her in the bed, and she had her husband on one side and her doula on the other. And she's sitting in a squat position, and I'm behind her, kind of holding her legs, looking over. And then she has her baby, and she's crying. We're all crying in the room. And she's got this cute little delicious boy. And she's like, oh, Cheryl, look, the vernix. This is the best lotion ever. Oh. She's like, here, let me put some. It's going to be great for our wrinkles. So I always share that story because it's hilarious. If people could bottle that, they would.
Yes.
But this is not something you bottle. This is something specific for your baby. And it's going to continue to protect your baby because it has that antibacterial kind of like protection shield for your child. Please don't rub it off.
Right. There's a reason.
And don't dig it out of the ears. Just leave all that cheesy stuff and all the folds in the ears.
Yeah.
So
it's the perfect design.
It is. It is perfect design. So,
well, I just love how Ayurveda supports the body to do what it's already trying to do. It just
helps to bring the body into balance. That's really the key. We each have our own constitution, and your constitution is a combination of the 3 doshas, and we have a primary dosha. And then those other 2 kind of fall into play. And you're born with your assigned constitution.
Interesting.
And then as we kind of live and grow in our life, our constitution changes, but we're always trying to find the balance based on the comparison to what we were born with.
Interesting. Just life can change.
Just life.
Stress and... Okay. That's
and it's a little bit like there are 3 doshas that define a constitution for each of us in our body. But we can apply those doshas to the time of day. Okay. We can apply those doshas a season. And then also a season of the year, but also a season of life.
Sure.
So
I love it.
It's pretty rock star. I love it too. I'm always happy to talk about it for as much as I can. And, beyond that, I'm like, hold on, let me call a friend.
Yeah. Or even just, I think the slight structure, there's so much beauty to that and how helpful it is. Like, I think we emphasize flexibility and do whatever we want a lot in our culture, and just the structure can be so healing.
It gives you a place to go. If you have a question, if you're not sure, then you can go and you can look. This is where I'm at. Oh, this is a sattvic food. I think I'll try this. I feel like I'm a little tamasic. I'll bring some rajasic into it.
Yeah.
So you start to find kind of some balance. So, but we do look at someone and we just identify them. Oh, this person is this. Not necessarily. It's more than a look.
Sure.
It's also a season, and it's an attitude. It's personality. Man, it's the whole package.
Right.
So.
And there's symptoms, and yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anything else you want to talk about tonight?
I don't know. I mean, there's nothing that's next for me. I think I'm done.
Yeah.
Though.
Content with.
I think I'm very content.
I'd
love for more people to be interested in Ayurveda, to learn Ayurveda. And especially in our community where there are so many doulas now, that it would be great if more of our mamas, our clients, understood that this was an option for them. And if more doulas were interested in talking about these traditions and not discarding other cultural traditions, but allowing this to blend into it. I mean, it's so there's so much there.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it would be great just to continue that. And then, I don't know. Yeah. I did go to the farm. Maybe I'll assist one of you amazing midwives one day.
I still haven't been to the farm.
Maybe I'll fall into that.
We would love that.
I called the farm that magical forest with the unicorn midwives that we all talk about, right? And it did seem a little bit of a magical forest. It was an awesome time. So.
Yeah. Oh, I need to go.
But
well, maybe for newer doulas, or maybe somebody thinking about becoming a doula, do you have a little spiel or tips you usually give them, things to think about?
So I think that for me, I kind of tiptoed my way into this world. And for me, that was the right way. I did my other jobs, but I've always had the kind of life that I worked for myself, so it was easy for me to kind of juggle. So I tiptoed into this world. But I think what's kept my sanity, that's not the right thing to say, Cheryl, but I think that what's helped me stay in balance.
I was going to say balance, yeah.
is that I'm not just a doula.
Yeah.
I'm a yoga teacher. That's my foundation. I never really wanted to let that go. I think it brings me back to center. And then I also I limit the number of clients I take. So I feel like, man, I've been a doula for 15 years officially, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe we could count another 2 or 3 in there at some point. But in the birth world for about 20, but officially 15. And I'm still here. And so I feel like it's because I've just been real honest with myself I limit my clients, and I always want to serve and serve well. A lot of doulas these days feel like they need to pigeonhole themselves into some very specific, like, I serve this client. And I feel like that's maybe a little single-sided. And I feel like if we just open ourselves up, be completely open, all the right clients, all those right people, those families are going to come to us. We're going to see them and they're going to see us. Mm-hmm. So instead of kind of like, I'm only going to serve people in Oak Cliff, because that's where I live. I'm not going outside of Oak Cliff. I'm pigeonholing myself just a little bit. The view is so narrow. So just opening it up, I think, can also be very beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you, Cheryl.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
I feel like we could talk so much more about Ayurveda.
Let's do it. Let's come back. Let's do part 2.
I would love that.
Let's do part 2. I'm on all those socials. I'm not as good on the socials, but I answer everything. But yeah.
Thank you.
And my hypnobirthing classes are also
yes.
limited in person.
Okay.
But I'm doing both.
Okay.
If you feel uncomfortable being in person, then you've got the Zoom that you can kind of participate in. And I thought it was going to be restrictive. I thought it was going to it wouldn't really kind of convey. Mm-hmm. But over the summer, not one person was like, man, I didn't get anything out of that. Okay. They really felt like they had to use it. They got the benefit of using it. So.
Okay. Well, thank you, Cheryl.
You're welcome.
Thank you for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
And we'll link to you in the description and everything like that. So we'll have to do a part 2.
All they have to do is reach out. Happy to answer any questions. Thanks for doing this. I know that you're providing such a great tool for families. So
yeah. I really hope it's helpful, just so people can know their options. Mm-hmm. Let us know what you want to hear about, and if you've made it all the way to the end, please leave us a review. We would so appreciate that. Share about it. You can find more updates and things like that on my Instagram or Facebook. It's at Bethany Stricker Midwifery on Instagram, Bethany Stricker Midwifery Care on Facebook, and then just BethanyStricker.com for website stuff. And yeah, make sure you subscribe on Spotify or Apple so you can get notifications for further podcasts. Thanks for listening. Bye.